Honorable Finance Minister and a team are here to brief us about the outcomes. At the outset, I take this opportunity to welcome Honorable Minister for Finance and Corporate Affairs, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman ji, to the National Media Center. I extend a warm welcome to you, ma'am. I also extend a warm welcome to Honorable Minister of State for Finance, Shri Pankaj Chaudhary ji. My warm welcome also to Secretary Revenue, Shri Sanjay Malhotra ji, Chairperson CBIC, Shri Sanjay Kumar Agarwal ji, Member GST, Shri Shashank Priya ji, Member Tax Policy, Shri Vivek Ranjan ji. Friends, as is the format, Honorable Finance Minister will make the opening remarks, and after that, we will open the floor for discussion. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, and we are here to brief on the 52nd meeting of the GST Council and the decisions taken therein. Whilst important decisions on goods and services have been made on the clarification or taxation related issues, I would start with the most important one, where in the last 2 or 3 meetings we had taken a call on setting up tribunals. There is in this meeting as well a decision taken on the tribunal related issue. For the constitution of a GST appellate tribunal, decision was already taken. The council has today decided to make a few amendments to the decision taken earlier. They pertain to the judicial member and also for those from the lawyers community who may get appointed, particularly on the issue of their age. So the decision today is that the president and the members shall have a tenure up to a maximum age of 70 years. Earlier, this was 67. For the president and the members, it was 67 and 65 respectively. Whereas what we've now done is the tenure can be up to 70 and 67 respectively. For the president it is 70, earlier it was 67. For the member it is 67 now, earlier it was 65. You're all right, Girish? You want a clarification? It relates to the appointment and the age limit, maximum age limit of president and the members. As things stand before this amendment of today, the president shall have a tenure up to a maximum age of 67. Today, it is amended to be 70. The member would have a maximum tenure up to 67 after today's amendment. Earlier it was 65. So that is one amendment done. The minimum age of appointment, of course, was not specified earlier, but we are now saying for the appointment as president and member is recommended to be 50 years, minimum age. So that is one of the major decisions taken today. Now I go to issues related to goods. It's not mentioned here, that's why there was another subject to correction, I would like to say it. Advocates who could become judicial members, not technical members. Minimum age for entry is 50 years. We wanted it to be clear that advocates up to 10 years of experience. Am I right, Sanjay? Up to 10 years of experience they should have minimum to be able to be considered for appointment as a judicial member. So advocates are welcome, but they should have 10 years of minimum experience. So that is the other which is specified now. Then there are decisions taken on the goods and services. One of the most important, which I'd like to say with a sense of happiness, that the GST Council wanted to participate in the year of millets, and therefore GST's role in promotion of millets is seen in that. Food preparations of millet flour in powder form containing at least 70% millets by weight. And because I'm saying millets, I want to emphasize they fall under the category of HS 1901 and not any other. We're not talking about others. So in powder form, millets being blended with any other atta, for instance, where the millet's composition is 70%, we state that they will be having a 0% GST if sold in other than pre-packaged and labeled form, meaning when they are sold loose or when they are packed but with no pre-packaging in the sense of branding or name or nothing else. So 0% if they are sold loose, and 5% only if sold pre-packaged and in a labeled form. That distinction between selling in loose and selling as a pre-packaged and labeled form has always been there. Now in the case of millet, we are saying 0 if it is sold loose, when it is 70% of millet with any other atta. And when we say loose, it's packed into some kind of not so identifiable by name or brand, that kind of a thing. But if it is pre-packaged and labeled, it is charged at 5% only. The House, in fact, the GST Council was unanimous and everyone joined in to say anything above 5% doesn't have an impact on the market or on the sentiment or on sending the message. So they were ready to say give it at 5%. So GST stands with the millet year this year. The other on which I think a very critical decision, again after a long period of time, which has quite a few implications, and I would start with the implication it has on center-state relationship. The GST on extra neutral alcohol. Allahabad High Court had established that the states after the 101st constitutional amendment do not have a right to tax ENA. Allahabad High Court had very clearly ruled that states have lost their legislative competence to enact laws to impose tax on the sale of extra neutral alcohol, which is a raw product for making alcohol for human consumption. So, by law, the GST Council had the right to tax ENA, and that's been established by the Allahabad High Court's verdict. Even the Attorney General of India had opined that the judgment in the Bihar distilleries case does not denude either the center or the state to levy GST on ENA. In other words, the GST Council's right on taxing the ENA was well established. Despite that, the GST Council, and I'm very grateful and I'm happy to say this, despite that, the GST Council today has ceded that right to tax ENA to the states. If the states want to tax it, they are welcome to do it. If the states want to leave it at it, they are welcome to take a call on it. The GST Council, meaning the central body here, is not taking a call to tax it, although the right to tax lies here. So that in the interest of the states, we have, if I may use the word, ceded that right to the states. So despite having the legislative competence to tax ENA under the GST, the center is ceding the space or the power to the states on this matter. So that is one of the major decisions today. Alongside it, the GST on molasses has been reduced from 28% to 5%. This will benefit sugarcane farmers, we hope, and this will enable their dues to be cleared faster because more money will be left in the hands of the mills or whoever. And the council and we all feel that it will also lead to reduction in the cost of manufacturing of cattle feed, which will be a major development. And a separate tariff HS code has been created at the 8-digit level in the customs tariff to cover rectified spirit for industrial use. So this here is towards liquor, human consumption, but because of the tweaking in the HS code, rectified spirit which comes for industrial use will now have a separate HS code. The GST rate notification will be amended to create an entry for extra neutral alcohol for industrial use. I read that again for you. The GST rate notification will be amended to create an entry for the ENA for industrial use, and that shall attract 18% tax. These were the major goods related. There are some more, I'm sure Revenue Secretary will elaborate on it. There is one item on the services which I'd like to highlight. Sorry, I'm searching for that. In order to promote tourism, and this is an item which was brought on the table, we have given a conditional exemption to foreign flag, foreign going vessels. The exemption is from IGST being levied. For foreign flagged and foreign going vessels, if they convert temporarily for a coastal run. So, in other words, in the next couple of months during winter, if coastal vessels, let's say cruise-like vessels, which are foreign owned and foreign run, come over and do the coastal run in India, during these months, winter months, when cruise travel normally takes off very well, we have given an exemption from IGST because they are overseas. Normally, they would have to be taxed on IGST. Exemption has been provided. And this is done. Normally, it's 5% IGST. They are now being exempt from that. This is essentially to provide tourism, particularly in the western coast, where from northern Maharashtra, Gujarat, down to Kochi, cruise can take off very well, and so with the eastern coast as well. So there are some more decisions which I'll request the RS to, you can talk.
So, one more very pro-industry facilitation measure that has been taken is because GST is still in its early days, there was COVID, and so we had given time to our assessing officers to pass assessment orders. Some more time had been given, and so as a result of that, the assessment orders itself were delayed. And so the appeal filing time is normally 3 months within the passing of the order. It can be extended by another period of 1 month. The council has recommended that a period till 31st January 2024 may be given for filing of appeals by the taxpayers for all orders which have been passed till 31st March 2023. There is with a little bit of enhanced pre-deposit. Pre-deposits for appeal at present are 10%, but for these appeals which are being given an extra time, instead of 10%, they will have to pay 2.5% of the amount in dispute additional, and this 2.5% will have to be in cash from the electronic cash ledger. So this is again an important facilitation of trade measure that has been recommended by the council. The few more items, Zari, there was some confusion on Zari. Earlier the council had recommended a 5% rate, but there were some more Zari items in which plastic is also being used. The council has clarified that they will also attract 5% GST and not 18%. Similarly, job work, there was a doubt as to whether job work services for processing of barley into malt attracts GST at 5%, which is the applicable rate for the entry of job work in relation to food and products, or whether it will attract a rate of 18% where there is a job work related to the alcohol manufacturing industry. So it has been clarified that where processing of barley into malt is being done, irrespective of whether it will be supplied to the liquor manufacturing industry or otherwise, it will attract only 5%. Then some entities have been recommended to be notified, one being government authorities when they take services relating to water supply, public health, sanitation, conservancy, solid waste management, slum improvement and upgradation. When these services are taken by government authorities, then these will be exempt from tax. Similarly, even if there is a composite service involving up to 25% of service, they will be exempt from paying a GST on it. Similarly, there has been a doubt on whether the district mineral foundation trusts are government authorities or not, and whether they are eligible for same exemptions as available to other government authorities for the purposes of GST. So it has been clarified that DMFTs will also be treated as government authorities. I think this is, yeah, so I'll request you can elaborate on a few more points relating to railways, which has been brought under forward charge and provisional attachment, which gets restricted to 1 year. You can explain those provisions.
In case of railways, certain services which were provided by Indian Railways were charged on forward charge mechanism, and there were certain services which were provided to railways were charged on reverse charge mechanism. Now there was a request from railways that because if they pay on reverse charge basis, then they will have to pay from cash, they were not able to utilize ITC. So the entire spectrum of services which are provided by railways will be now subject to forward charge, and ITC would also be available in discharging it. Certain exemptions which were provided when the service is provided by government agency, those have now been withdrawn. Another issue was that GST law provided provisional attachment of property during the pendency of investigation, and the period provided was 1 year. But in the GST rules, it was not clearly provided that when the form is issued, it will not be required to be mentioned that it will remain valid for 1 year. So now and what was happening was that once this was issued, attachment order was issued and say sent to bank, they were not releasing the provisionally attached account on expiry of 1 year, and were waiting for explicit order from the tax authorities. So now this form has been aligned with the legal provision, and now in the form itself it will be mentioned that it will remain valid for 1 year, or if attachment is lifted before that, so whichever date is earlier.
We may open the floor for questions and answers. We may begin from the third row, 246, please. Go ahead. Please identify yourself and the organization, and you can ask the question, please.
Good afternoon to everyone present. I'm Janani from BQ Prime. I have two questions. One primarily on whether there was any discussion regarding the tax liability for online gaming firms, whether this came up today and how it proceeded. And the second, whether there was any discussion on corporate guarantees given, and if we could get some clarity on that.
So, insofar as corporate guarantee is concerned, there are two decisions. One is when the corporate guarantee is given by a director to a company, then it will attract GST. In that case, the value of the service that is being provided by way of guarantee will be treated to be zero, or the consideration provided, whichever is higher. So if there is generally there is no consideration provided, because the director himself, just gives the guarantee, and there is no consideration which is given to him for this. So it will not attract any GST, because the value will be deemed to be nil unless some consideration is paid. Similarly, when a corporate guarantee is given by a company to its subsidiary company, then it will be deemed that the value is 1% of the corporate guarantee. So it will attract GST at the rate of 18% on 1% of the total amount involved, the total amount guaranteed by the parent company. Your second question, whether there was a discussion on the GST notices which have been issued. Well, yes, there was some discussion on it. Some certain members did raise this issue, and it was informed to them that this is not retrospective in any way, because this is how the law was earlier, and the law has not been amended retrospectively. So these liabilities were already existing, because the money online games played for bets with stakes, as was mentioned by me and others even earlier in the various press briefings, they were already attracting by the virtue of entry of betting and gambling. And so it is because the council has not decided anything for the past, it's a prospective legislation. So whatever was the law as it existed earlier, it was clarified to them that it is because of this that those notices have gone.
Hi, this is Priyashmita from Informist Media. My question is with respect to the GST compensation cess. So a few states have said that there have been conversations about how to go about the cess collection and the continuation of it after 2026, how it is going to work out. So if one of you could please shed some light on what exactly were the discussions, and if there have been any continued representation from states to extend the compensation that was discontinued in June this year. Thank you.
There was no There was discussion on it, but from the point of view of after paying the borrowed money and the interest due on it, the cess would be over and done with, meaning cess for the sake of compensation giving, compensation whether earned or borrowed, that cess completes its time. So the discussion was from the point of view of a perspective planning, can the GST Council look at if there are ways in which cess or surcharge or something else can be used, if at all it can be used, how to use it, and so on. So we have agreed to have a discussion on the perspective plan angle to see how cess or surcharge can be used, and it was put on record that up to March 26, the cess that is being collected in the name of compensation, which is provided by the law, will go towards payment of the principal and the interest of amounts which were borrowed during COVID for payment of compensation. So it is in that context, the issue of cess and surcharges was discussed, and the request which came for a discussion on this so that systemically we can handle it was accepted, and there shall be some kind of a GST. One of the meetings can take this on agenda. So it is in that background the discussion happened.
Just to elaborate and clarify that there was no discussion on the compensation
No,
or
there was
extension thereof. It's only with respect to cesses, but not with respect to extension from June 2022, or that was not discussed at all.
Hello, ma'am. This is Sumit Chaturvedi from ET Now. Delhi Finance Minister in the morning, she said that the 28% GST on online gaming could jeopardize investments, lead to job losses. That's why she is opposing it. Any other states which were of the view on this issue? And second, something on the hostels also on GST came during the council meeting.
Something on what?
Hostels.
No, there was no decision taken on the hostels, it's been deferred. Well, on the gaming, it was only the Delhi minister. On the casinos, it was the Goa minister. And this was taken under after the GST Council meeting was over, under any other item when people wanted to talk. Delhi minister's concern were more on the lines of, taxing them will kill a sunrise industry. Our youth need this industry. And also then taking up the issue of, notices which have gone to these companies. We heard her. But the fact that, and of course Delhi minister also highlighted that this decision has been discussed over 2.5, 3 years, and if the decision taken in the council is going to affect a young and youthful industry which has so much prospects, and so on. So that was the line taken by the Delhi minister.
Wait a second. You have a question, please, and after that we'll go to the back row.
Tarun from Z
Tarun,
Business.
go ahead.
Yeah. So, ma'am, I have two questions. One is on the reverse charge mechanism. There's a discussion, there's an agenda for the reverse charge mechanism for metal scrap. Is being discussed in the meeting? Any discussion on that? Secondly, ma'am, GST revenue is almost stabilized around 1.6 lakh crore. So is this the right time to expedite the rate rationalization scheme for the GST? Can we get your
There's
comment?
not been any call taken on the rate rationalization yet. But on the scrap, do you want to explain?
That has been deferred. There is a subcommittee which is looking into it. The subcommittee submitted its report, but that was just before the council committee meeting, and so the fitment committee could not examine it. They will examine that report, and then accordingly a call will be taken.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
कि क्या रेट रैशनलाइजेशन को लेकर जो कमेटी है उसका गठन करने पर कोई जल्दी विचार किया गया, क्योंकि अभी तक वो कमेटी अभी तक गठन नहीं हुआ है दोबारा से, तो और इस पे रेट रैशनलाइजेशन को लेकर कोई आने वाले दिनों में, क्योंकि इस जो जीएसटी का कलेक्शन है काफ़ी स्टेबलाइज हो रहा है, लगातार बढ़ता जा रहा है, तो कुछ रेट रैशनलाइजेशन को लेकर या दरों में कटौती को लेकर भी कोई चर्चा है?
नहीं, यही तो मैंने जवाब दिया, रेट रैशनलाइजेशन के ऊपर आज कुछ चर्चा नहीं हुआ है।
Yes, sir. Prakash Pedashi from ET Now, Swadesh. Ma'am, there are several notices with regard to ITC recovery against insurance companies. So, any discussion on that in today's meeting?
No, not on ITC recoveries.
Ma'am, I am Monica from the New Indian Express. Ma'am, was there any discussion on application of GST on redevelopment projects by cooperative societies, as there are many cases related to transfer of development rights pending with several courts?
There
And
was no
has the
discussion, but-
GOM on real estate submitted its report on it?
No.
Okay.
Hello, ma'am. I'm Surbhi from Business Today. Ma'am, just wanted to understand that GST appellate tribunal, so much has been done, and the expectation was that they would be set up by the year end. So, what kind of a deadline should we expect on this?
Well, we are moving fast on it. The decision has been taken. Today, there was a little amendment which we needed to do because of the aligning with all other tribunals in terms of the age, maximum age. Now that that's done, the states have also very clearly come up with their first request of where they want them to be located. We are moving fast on it.
Ma'am, Meghna Mittal from Money Control. Can you give some details on the discussion on the ENA? Have the states agreed that they will not be now using VAT, imposing VAT on ENA? Until the time the amendment is made, will it remain exempt from GST?
No, I'm not sure the GST Council can expect the states to talk about their right on levying the VAT in the GST Council. It's their business. I don't think it would have been right for the GST Council to say, are you assuring me that you will not impose VAT? No, the GST Council has no business, and they didn't ask as well. We were happy that the right has been ceded by the GST Council, the center, that is Central CGST, to give it off to the states, GST, from the GST to the states. What they are going to do subsequently probably doesn't relate, or it's not in the terrain of the GST Council.
Your next question, please. 52 from the back row.
Hello, ma'am. I'm Kuldeep Singh from Odisha Post. Ma'am, the state of Odisha has been demanding withdrawal of GST on kendo leaves. So, was there any discussion on that today?
Where are you?
Is there?
No, there was no discussion on
Ma'am,
tendo leaves.
since this issue has, I mean, they have been demanding it for quite some long time. So, what is the reason, ma'am, why the?
Because there are other states which objected too. It's not as if we've stopped it. I'm not naming the states here because it was very much a discussion in the council. The proposal which has been very strongly put forward by Orissa, unfortunately, there were other states which objected to it and said, no, we can't. So it didn't go through at that time.
Thank you.
And today there was no discussion.
25, please. Yeah. Middle row.
Yeah, I'm Ujjwal Narayan from PTI. Just wanted to check with because there is some word from some finance ministers that the tax notices or tax evasion of 1.5 lakh crores has been sent to the gaming company. So what is the exact number, sir?
We don't know. It is the DGGI which sends, and we won't be able to know about the GST claims that
Because
they put.
that is very huge amount. That's why I'm asking.
No, whatever is the amount, I wouldn't know, because that's their independent business, and I don't interfere in that.
Yes, please go ahead with your question. Speak in the microphone.
I'm Nikunj from Reuters. Hi, good afternoon. I wanted to ask you on this clarification on this ENA when you said that the center has ceded its rights, its right to tax ENA. So is that only for human
Center
consumption?
meaning the GST.
GST Council, sorry. So is that only for ENA for human consumption or industrial purposes as well? And secondly, on the 1% amount, guaranteed amount. So is that if in case the guaranteed amount is known, will GST be charged on that amount or a fee? And will that be the case? And if it is not known, then 1% would be computed of the entire guaranteed amount, and then GST would be imposed on it. If you could please clarify.
So your second question first, the guarantees are generally for loans, the amount is known. So it is on the loan amount, the 1% will be calculated on the loan amount, which is guaranteed to be repaid in case of a default. Regarding the ENA, it is I may clarify, ENA used for the manufacture of alcoholic liquor for human consumption. It is this particular ENA which is for manufacturing portable alcohol, which will be kept outside the purview of GST. As Honorable Finance Minister had mentioned, there will be a separate entry, separate HSN code has been already notified for that purpose, and ENA for industrial purpose will carry GST. And another clarification which Chairman brings out is for the purposes of the guarantee given by the parent company to a subsidiary company, the 1% deemed valuation will come in where there is no consideration. In case there is a consideration which is paid, then it will be the consideration amount or 1%, whichever is higher.
The next question will be from the corner, please, here.
So just one clarification, how many states have passed the necessary amendment for levying the 28% GST on online gaming?
All of them have agreed to pass it with effect. Even if they have not passed it, first of all, they have agreed to pass it with effect from 1/10/2023 this year. I think the latest count was 18 that have already passed. Some 13 are pending to be passed, either an ordinance or an amendment through the act.
Yes.
Yes, please, middle row, 154.
Prakash Pedashu from Itina. Ma'am, any discussion on constitution of new GOM, that is with regard to rate rationalization?
Already answered no. I mean, this is not a GST agenda. It was not discussed.
I think, if there are no more questions, we may wind up the briefing, madam. Thank you very much for the elaborate opening remarks as well as answering so many questions. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.